Mr. President, distinguished guests and the audience and dear all friends of democracy. I would first of all like to express my gratitude to the Korea Democracy Foundation for being invited here to this important seminar and sharing some thoughts about democracy and the future of democracy. My presentation will in some parts be fairly practical, but I will start by giving a few notes about the context. First of all, in 1992, Francis Fukuyama published his famous book On the End of History. At that time, it did seem that the Cold War ended in a final victory of liberal democracies over authoritarian rule. We now all know that history did not end in 1992. In fact, authoritarian thoughts are lurking behind the curtains and calls are made for authoritarian leadership in many countries. Political landscapes change rapidly, political parties pop up and disappear, and fake news has suddenly become the term that we almost use in everyday language. But the important thing is I'm convinced that the future will be shaped by our ability to protect and develop democracy, the rule of law and human rights. I guess that the rule of law, human rights and democracy go hand in hand. And this is what we're trying to do at our ministry as well, to put forward both to put forward human rights protection as well as developing the Finnish democracy to function in the 21st century. As a background, the Finnish democracy is fairly strong and enjoys high respect among the citizens, but also we rank very high on international comparative studies. Our experience of what makes democracy strong is first of all, we have a strong civil society which is free. We have a high level of education, and education for everyone, not just certain groups in society. We have very low hierarchies in the government and in the administration, and it's combined with good governance. We have a long history of openness and transparency, and we also have tried to do restless anti-corruption work and have very low level of corruption. Media freedom is also one very important issue, and equality between men and women. And I guess these combinations are what makes the democracy strong. But having said that, I guess that I would say that we are also experiencing some problems. And in all Western societies, we can see that there is declining voting turnout in elections. We have less and less party members, and young people are often staying outside and not participating in the democracy. And that is why we need to think about new ways new ways for people to participate more often than every fourth or second year in elections. We need to have something in between the elections, and that is why what I'm going to talk about today is e-democracy, because we have tried to use the benefits of internet to have for people to have more say and have more possibilities to participating in democracy. I don't know, I have the slides, yes, good, somebody is changing them. We think that internet can be a solution in some way, because but it's meanwhile also a risk. I mean, we see fake news spreading around, we see a lot of problems with people just talking to like-minded people in their own bubbles and not discussing with different groups. But still, it's also a place where you can communicate with large audiences, and you can use it for many good purposes as well. In Finland we have, if you look at the statistics, almost everyone uses internet on a daily basis in Finland, so we have a good platform to start with developing democracy also on the net. Could I have the next slide, please? We had a large e-participation program running within the government from 2010 to 2015, and our aim was to create tools for better dialogue and interaction between the authorities and the public, and to improve e-participation both at local and national level, and to improve findability and openness. And I will tell you shortly more in detail what we did. It was part of a larger program on e-services in Finland, because we don't want a democracy to be separate from everything else, because if people won't, otherwise people wouldn't find these services and so forth. So we created actually a whole range of e-services for learning, housing, and citizen advice and so forth, and also the democracy services were included in this. Next slide, please. And what we were perhaps aiming at was, my presentation also followed this same path. First of all, we need to have transparency, and transparency, the government should put forward all documentation on the internet, publish it so that the general public can follow what we do, how do we spend our money, and so forth. And this is very important in order to tackle corruption and other problems. Secondly, we need participation of people. Democracy, one of the biggest features of democracy is participation. But at the highest level, we're trying to go from one-sided participation to collaboration, where actually the community and the civil service and politicians can collaborate together, perhaps produce things together as well. Next slide. We think that the fundamental rights dimensions here are both that we have accessibility, transparency, and access to information. We need data protection and identification. We need engagement, and we also need to look at the paper world versus the digital world, so that people who are not digitally literate also have the possibilities to participate. But if I think at the whole thing, I think that three different things are needed at least. We need a stable basis, and the basis should be in legislation. Our constitution says that Finland is a democracy, and and the power belongs to the people. Secondly, our constitution also stipulates the fundamental human rights, and it says that it's the government's duty to guarantee that people have their democratic rules protected and developed and have their human rights protected. But legislation without actual participation opportunities is not so much. So we also need people to know what their actual rights are so that they can use their rights. Because if we have rights that we don't know or we can't use, then it's not so good. And thirdly, we need also to have a willingness within the government, within politicians, to be able to collaborate and to have a willingness to listen to what people have to say. I think these are three important issues. First, I will talk just a few remarks about access to information and transparency. The Nordic countries are known for having very, very long traditions of transparency. That means that everything that the government does, except for issues related to some issues relating to foreign policy and to personal matter of people, they are not public. Everything, almost everything else is public, and it's ruled by law that in the Act of Openness of Government Activities, that the government has to be proactive in publishing these documents, and on request, if not published, you can receive the documentation that you want if it's not judged as classified. And you can only judge something classified if you directly find a reason in the law. So I, as a civil servant, I cannot say that this is classified. Otherwise, you can go to the administrative court and they will rule that you can receive this information. Here are a few screenshots. I think that the important here is to see that we publish all our government bills, all our court rulings, all legislation, all government programs, all government working groups, and all documentations on different platforms. Also, all the government data is published in a form which can be used for business purposes, for example. And we have also made a one-stop shop, the suomifinland.fi, which is a place where you can find all of these services digitally so that they can be easily found. We have quite strong party and candidate financing legislation concerning access to information and transparency in party and campaign financing. You also can find the act in English. I put some of this because we translate some of our acts to English. We have a special web page where you can actually go in and find exactly how much a party and a candidate has received money, exactly how many euros and how they have spent it. And the idea for this is that we want the great public can follow the connection between the party and the candidates has to different stakeholders. So, for example, if a business pays a lot of money to a politician, then it's possible to see that transparently. Then, from transparency to participation and agenda setting, we have a democracy.fi webpage where we have different types of citizen initiatives. You go to the next slide. The citizen initiative in Finland was launched in 2012, and it was by an amendment of our constitution, and by passing a separate citizen initiative law. And according to the law, 50,000 Finnish citizens entitled to vote have the right to submit an initiative for the enactment of an act to the parliament. Which means the citizen initiative, in a nutshell, is you can do a proposal for a law, and if 50,000 people sign it, then the parliament will deal it in the same manner as they deal with government proposals. So it's actually a way for ordinary citizens to put forward legislation, and the parliament deals with it in the same way. The important thing about this is that you can collect these signatures through internet by using our citizen initiative platform. It requires strong identification for it, and there are various sources for it. And here we have a screenshot of how the page looks like. And what I would like to say about this, the important thing is that this has been seen as a very good new way of getting people to be interested about democracy and democratic issues. We have had so far 19 citizen initiatives in 5 years has entered the parliament, and the quickest, the most signatures for one initiative was actually collected over 100,000 signatures in just 12 hours. And you need to remember that Finland has only 5.5 million people, so it's quite a large amount. We have from 2 to 3 million visits on the web page per year, so it's actually a very well known issue. And so far, of the citizen initiatives, one has actually been passed by the parliament, 4 are at the moment in parliament for reconsideration, and 3 initiatives the parliament didn't directly accept or reject them, but sent it back to the government for further preparation, so they actually had an impact. And what is important to see here is that it's not only on the internet where things happen. People actually ally in rallies and outside in parks and so forth, and you see campaigning for citizen initiatives outside in the streets and so forth. So it has actually, in a way, reinvigorated democracy. And what I'm especially glad for is that it's especially younger people, those who tend not to be voting so much and so forth. They've been interested in this, and I think that this will have, in the long run, an influence on our representative democracy as well. People will be more willing to vote if they see that they can actually make change when they use citizen initiatives. Here are some on this slide some facts about how people have perceived the citizen initiative. We can see that a vast majority of Finnish people see that citizen initiative has raised important issues in public debate, and also over 80% of people see that initiative has improved the functioning of Finnish democracy. Some people are a bit less happy with how the parliament has dealt with these initiatives, and this might have to do with the fact that it was a quite new new way of dealing with issues, and the Parliament has needed some time to think about how to handle it. Well, I go over to, we in Finland, 2/3 of all our social and services and education and so forth are done at the local level. We have very strong municipal self-government, which is guaranteed by our constitution, and we have a similar citizen initiative and local referendums in the municipalities, where you actually can push forward issues as a single person, for example, or then with a bigger group of people, for example, of having a new school or having the new tarmac on the road and so forth. These are much more, let's say, issues which are closer to people than what the government do, because the municipalities are actually the service providers. Also, 4% of people over 15 years old have the possibility to putting forward a referendum initiative. Let's have the next slide. And our sister service for this is the kuntalaisaloite.fi, which is it functions in the similar way as the National Citizen Initiative. You can collect them. You collect them on the internet, and it's sent to the municipality for the municipal government to consider. And what I would like to say is that all of these services are connected to Twitter and Facebook and so forth. Even though you don't use them you need to sign up for the service here on the platform, but you can share your own initiatives, for example, on Twitter and on Facebook by pressing a button and invite people to come and have a look. This is my initiative. I'm pushing forward this issue, and I think when I look at user statistics, we can see that the most important ways of having people coming into this is either when the media discusses a citizen or local initiative, or then through social media, and the third is through NGOs. So that's the way of spreading the word in the digital world. Then to the last part of the presentation. Well, could you go one slide backwards? I will just put forward. We also do consultation and try to do crowdsourcing in law drafting. And I put forward. I wanted to put this on the slide. It's from the OECD Regulatory Policy Outlook, which gives a good picture of how different countries are done. I guess that the last part here is very important also. Reforms aimed at improving the quality of laws and regulation remain a potent means of stimulating economic activity and promoting well-being. And I think that we need to realize that democracy, good, well-prepared legislation together with the community also can lead to economic growth and well-being. And by saying this, I think it's also a way of promoting openness and marketing democracy for those who are not so interested in the actual issue but are more into economics and finances, that we can also gain from this. But now to the next slide. Here we can skip this, so not so much time. We in Finland, we have a very long tradition of preparing legislation together in close collaboration with the NGOs, because we think that we as people working within the government, we are not the best experts on everything. Although we have perhaps the legal expertise or the expertise but we don't know how people feel about different issues on the ground level and in the NGOs. So we try to do to prepare legislation in large preparatory bodies together with the stakeholders, have hearings, but then we also the newest issue is that we also do it on the internet more and more, because we think that it's a way where we can include more people from different regions in the country, not only the ones living in the capital and who have the potential and the ability to travel. We actually have 3 services for doing this. We have a service where you can hold discussions and deliberations with the large public on various issues. We have a service designed for young people. The Youth Act says that young people should be heard in matters concerning them, and it's also in the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, and we have tackled this by this service. And then we have a special service for making official requests of statements. So that's basically where all law drafts are published, and anyone can come in and give their comments on the draft law before it's finalized and sent to Parliament. And here a final table of website visits. You can see that the citizen initiative is the most important and popular, with visits of around 3 million. But also the other services are growing all the time. So I see a potential here. Let's take the last slide. I guess that we think that the key benefits of e-participation is that it's open to everyone. We can reach large groups. We can increase quality, effectiveness, and also acceptability of the drafting process, which means that we can gain more legitimacy for what we do. We need a variety of participation methods. We think from everything from starting from initiatives to the end of the process, where we have a law draft which we can comment. And we see that all of these processes can be an advantage for democratic performance. But by saying this, I don't think that we can that e-participation or e-democracy is the only solution for democracy. Far from that. I mean, we need to have a well-functioning representative system. We need to have a well-functioning legislation. We need to have good governance and so forth. And we need to push for more for human rights and for equality in all spheres of life. But this is just an example that I wanted to portray of how to use e-tools and internet to engage the public, and how it also actually not only happens on the internet, it transfers into actual movements for an initiative or a cause, and where the NGOs form a very important part. And the last slide, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter if you like, and you can always send me an email if there is some more in-depth question that you want to have knowledge about. Thank you very much for your attention.